I want to thank all of you for coming out on what is, I'm afraid, more a cold evening now, and winter is beginning to make itself felt and make itself known. But we're a hardy bunch, and when I learned that Awista was coming, I was just thrilled because I've known her since she was a wee lass, as they say. And I was asked by Andrea if I would do the introduction, and I jumped at the chance. And so I actually prepared, and I want to share with you some of my thoughts. And as I wrote this, it brought back lots of memories. I was sitting in my office in Wilson Commons one day, in my days long past as the University Dean of Students. It was the spring of 2001, when a young woman with an appointment to see me arrived. It was Awista Ayub. She was a senior on the cusp of graduating from college, an experience I like to refer to as the uh-oh syndrome, as students regularly feel as though they're standing on a precipice overlooking into an abyss into which they're afraid they're going to fall and die. Awista and I quickly fell into a conversation about life after the university. I learned, among other things, that she was Afghani, born in Kabul, but fled with her family at the age of 2 for the U.S. Awista came to the University of Rochester, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and distinguished herself as a student by founding and coaching the university's first women's ice hockey team, participated in community service science projects with Girl Scouts, was a webmaster for Habitat for Humanity, was a University Take 5 scholar, and in 2001, Awista was recipient of the university's coveted Susan B. Anthony Prize, which is awarded to a graduating woman student who has shown exceptional leadership, academic excellence, and involvement in student life. As with many of our students, Awista at the time of our visit, felt a very strong urge to commit herself to meaningful work, and specifically, she articulated a determination to go to Afghanistan and find ways to help her people. Well, there was a war in Afghanistan, and I felt a sense of great concern for Awista's well-being and tried to talk her out of it. Do you remember that? I tried to talk her out of it. Because of her own valuable experiences in sports activity, for example, with the women's ice hockey team, I remember going to a game. She invited me to come to a game, and I went, and seeing this otherwise short woman elevated to my height because of her skates and bulked up in her uniform, hockey stick in hand, helmet on head, looking like a cross between the fearsome Incredible Hulk and, because of the white uniform, a cross between the Incredible Hulk and, because of her uniform, the Michelin Tire Man. In any case, Awista formed the Afghan Youth Sports Exchange in 2003. This organization, dedicated to developing leadership skills through athletics, provides opportunities for young women to come to the United States and participate in a host of activities through the sport of soccer. In its first year, 8 Afghani girls came. I remember having phone conversations and email exchanges with Awista back then. I was on her listserv, and as she struggled to find a home for that first summer experience. As I recall, she was successful in getting Emma Willard School in Troy, New York, to host the first program. She's grown the program to 15 teams and elicited the sponsorship and participation of the Afghanistan Football Federation. Because of her work in 2006, 2 of the women's soccer players were honored with the coveted SB Arthur Ashe Courage Award. And yes, despite my earlier concerns, Awista has been back to Afghanistan to work with her girls. Her successful efforts have received worldwide acclaim. She's appeared in numerous print and electronic media outlets, including NPR, ESPN, CNN, magazines from Sports Illustrated to Glamour magazine, which named her Hero of the Month. And I was so pleased one week, it was maybe a year ago, when ABC named her Person of the Week. Was it about a year ago? 3 years ago. Oh my God, 3 years ago. Oh, how time flies. In her recently published book, however, called The Mountain, A Dream, 8 Girls, and a Journey Home, Awista tells her story and the stories of the 8 original girls with whom she has kept in touch. The book is receiving rave reviews. It's on sale in the back, and we'll all leave. You can't leave without buying one. We're so fortunate to have her here with us this evening to tell her story. Please join me in welcoming one of our own, Awista Ayub, back to her alma mater.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's I don't have much more to say now, right? But can you all hear me? Okay, okay. So what I'd love to do is just talk a little bit about my own background, how I came to find myself in sports to begin with. My life here in Rochester, which I loved and still holds those memories very dear to my heart, and then just my work today. And I'll show a little bit of the ESPN film as well when the girls received the Arthur Ashe Award, which I think is very moving and very powerful, and really I think brings the story to life much more than I could ever do in words. So just to give you a brief background on myself. I know Dean or Vice President now, Vice President, still Dean. Okay. I was born in Afghanistan. I was born in Kabul in '79. So now you all know my age. But I was born in Kabul and came to the States when I was 2 years old. So that's actually I'm in the red up front. That's a photo of me coming straight off the plane, as they would say, just landing in Connecticut, and I'm the one in red, and I'm a little mad. I'm not sure why, but sports would definitely change that later. But I, grew up in this country in America with parents who had grown up their entire lives in Afghanistan, and so growing up here in Connecticut, the culture and the religion were so strong in the house. And outside of the home, though, I lived a very Americanized life as well. And there were times, as a young immigrant where I really struggled with my identity. Who am I? Where do I fit in? And what am I going to do with my life? And it really, while other girls and other boys in my neighborhood were signed up for soccer leagues or baseball leagues and basketball leagues, my mom felt it more important to take pictures of us in our Afghan clothes. And while I love these photos, I definitely did feel a void at times. Like I said, just dealing with my own identity and where I fit in. There was a point when I was in elementary school where I actually changed my name, because I had such a unique name. No one could pronounce it, none of my classmates, none of my teachers, and I decided that I would go by Sarah. So up until middle school, I went by Sarah Ayub, and all the teachers thought that that was my legal name, only to find out much later, when there were tons of Sarahs in middle school, that Sarah was just a name I made up in kindergarten one day when I was 5 years old. So I decided that Awista was cool enough and good enough, so I went back to Awista. But again, there was that identity crisis, and I think many immigrants face that in the States. And really, it wasn't until high school I started playing tennis for the high school team in 9th grade. And that's really where I found my home. And that was really this place that I felt the most comfortable, the most confident, and without a doubt, I think my parents would even tell you that my personality blossomed from then on. I was just much more confident in who I was, and certainly both in the classroom. I mean, I was always a good student, but there was just a greater sense of confidence that I had in my own work. And so I always was aware of this, and I understood the impact of sports. And in particular, for young women here in the States, there's a tremendous amount of work and a tremendous amount of studies that just prove that girls who play sports are more confident, have a better sense of their own identity, and certainly do better in the classroom as well. And when they go into the corporate world, they do go up the ladder of corporate life much faster than girls who didn't maybe play sports. So there's no doubt that it does have a positive impact. And when I was here in Rochester, I was a Take 5 scholar, and one thing that I studied during my Take 5 year was the correlation between girls who play sports and their tendency to do better in science even. I was here as a BS degree chemist, and I was one of only 2 females in my graduating class who had a BS degree. And I feel that sports, for me, helped give me that perseverance to, number one, not get intimidated by being in a classroom full of men and being in a lab full of men. But also, if I got a C on my organic chemistry midterm, I knew it wasn't the end of the world. I knew that I could just get right back up and try harder and do better next time, and try and learn from the mistakes that I made. So, my experience here at U of R, without a doubt, just shaped me and molded me even more so, in addition to the sports field, into who I am today. And I'll just talk a little bit about the ice hockey team, because one thing for me coming here, I was valedictorian of my high school class. And I think with that, certainly there's a lot of expectations that also go along with it. And I remember all of my high school teachers just expecting me to get straight A's in college. And I came here as a freshman and was getting C's. And it was really devastating to me, and I really couldn't understand why. Like, I just had a very hard time adjusting to life in college. And it was, again, very unusual for me to get anything below an A-. So it devastated my ego to some degree, but I also knew that I would be able to overcome that with time. And I think for me, looking back, that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me.